Hello and welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and Merry Christmas Eve as I tackle the 2018 anthology Christmas horror movie, All the Creatures Were Stirring, which is a Shudder exclusive right now, and kind of had it on my radar, waited to pull the trigger on it until just now, and I was expecting some low-budget badness with this movie, and what I wound up finding is, although some segments in the anthology did kind of land in that category, others were, I was surprised to find that some segments showed potential and explored their concepts in a way that I found extraordinarily interesting. This movie was written and directed in all parts by a husband and wife team of David Ian McKendry and Rebecca McKendry, and I am interested to see what they come up with in the future just based on the elements of this that I thought worked well. To get into more details of this one, let's get into the categories. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And the plot, I gave a 17 out of 25. This had 5 segments as well as a binding storyline, binding segment. And that one started out with a couple going out on a first date around Christmas time. The only thing that's open is this small live community theater. And when they get there, it has a very kind of awkward feel to it, a little out of place, very intimate, and the play itself is a fairly minimalist style, very little set dressing and so forth. And with each play, it presents a title, and then the audience is taken through a visual representation of the play that the couple is watching. And the segments are this: the stockings were hung, which was kind of a killer office party, Secret Santa kind of thing. That one I thought was so-so. Dash Away All, which is a man that gets trapped in a parking lot, locked his keys in his car, and finds help from strangers that are more than they seem. That one I actually thought was extraordinarily well done. This was a very unique and interesting concept, and I really liked the way that they fleshed it out. I was very impressed by Dash Away All. The next one is All Through the House, which was kind of, if you basically took the concept of let's do Dickens's A Christmas Carol in 10 minutes with a character whose biggest sin is the fact that he really just kind of hates Christmas, and reference some blowjobs throughout, that's pretty much what you wound up with. It was kind of so-so at best. Arose Such a Clatter, which was only 7 minutes long, which was kind of killer reindeer getting comeuppance from a road accident kind of thing. This is my least favorite of the lot. I thought that it didn't really explore anything. It didn't give itself any real time to develop any characters or feelings or anything of the sort. And the presentation of the killer deer was pretty bad. So, Arose Such a Clatter, I shelve off to the side there. And In a Twinkling, which started out with a bit of a misdirection. And I don't know if it was purposeful or not, but it really looked like what was your pretty standard werewolf story. A guy is wanting to be alone. He's looking at the moon. He's chaining himself to, or trying to chain himself to a fixture so that he can be isolated. When his friends want to come over for Christmas time, he doesn't want them there. And it turns into something else entirely, which, if I honestly describe it any further than that, it's going to give it away. Suffice it to say, I really, really liked how it was done. It was very reminiscent of Outer Limits kind of thing, and I really, really enjoyed it. Not only the concept, but how it was explored. So I wound up with, out of the 5 segments, 2 very, very solid ones, 2 kind of passable ones, and 1 that I actually thought was a bit of a stinker. And as far as the binding storyline goes, how that one fleshed out throughout the course of the film, I thought it was pretty lackluster until the end, and that got me. I really liked that. And I will say this for All the Creatures Were Stirring. Although it didn't give me nightmares, and, it's not like I, had trouble, going to the bathroom in the middle of the night and turning all the lights on. It wasn't anything along those lines. But I will say that for the first time in the advent calendar of Christmas horror movies that I have tackled, on December 24th, I have found a film that for a brief moment actually gave me chills, actually scared me on some level. And round of applause to all the creatures were stirring for making that happen. I have been wanting that so badly. I have seen so many bad killers, slashers, Santas, and what I really wanted was a movie that actually scared me. And even for the briefest glimmer of a moment, I appreciate this film for pulling that off. So all told, taking all of the elements and wrapping them all up and weighing the good and the bad, I gave it a plot score of 17 out of 25. The intent, I gave a 15 out of 25. This was pretty self-explanatory. The movie was trying to be kind of an interesting anthology, showcase some writing and directing, and like I said, some succeeded, some didn't. I kind of wound up in a place of 15 out of 25. The acting, I gave a 14 out of 25. Some performances were as bad as I feared. I'm not going to mince words about that. But some actually really rose above that, and I have to give some honorable, notable mentions. It shouldn't be a surprise that the ones I found to be notable mentions were in the two segments that I really liked, and I think that's one of the reasons I liked them, was not only were they interesting concepts, but they were sold well with interesting acting. Morgan Peter Brown as Steve is in a Twinkling, the last storyline. Really, really liked him. And then in the parking lot, the Dash Away All one, Matt Long is Eric and Catherine Parker is Sasha. I thought both did a very, very interesting and a good job overall, especially the way that they interacted with each other. I really liked that. And the technical, I gave a 12 out of 25. There is a word that I can't really help but have it escape from my lips, and I don't mean it to be insulting to David Ian and Rebecca McHenry. I really, really don't. But the word that I really can't escape from is amateurish. And what I mean by that is, honestly, there is a lot of potential here. There is talent. There is a rough stone waiting to be polished into a gem. And I really think that is, when I say amateurish, what I mean is keep going. There is talent there that just needs practice and needs refinement and needs potentially, bouncing. If you haven't done it, I'm sorry, I'm speaking to the directors personally here, but if you haven't done it in the course of this film, please do so, of bouncing the screenplays off of people and, just getting feedback on it, and don't be afraid to listen to it and refine things further. There was something there. There was real good chestnuts right in there, and you have something. You have a unique quality that I want to see more of. So please continue. But yes, there were some aspects of this film that I found to be fairly amateurish, and the technical, I think, was the most apt category in which they really shone through. And one of the best suggestions I can give is know on a budgetary level where to skimp and where not to. And the best example I can really think of is the In a Twinkling segment there. When I told you that it looked like a werewolf storyline at first, with the guy training himself up. The only thing I'll really say is that there is a huge visual difference in movement and just in the physics of the reality of real chains versus plastic Spirit of Halloween 50% off clearance chains. They were pretty big links, and they were floating around like feathers, and that's the kind of thing I mean by amateurish. If a lunch had been held back for a day or two so that you could afford the next thing, the other $20 so that you can go to Home Depot and buy some real chains, it would have been worth it. Or at the very least, not have them at all and just bring in some rope or something like that. Know where to skimp and know where not to. That's the best advice I can give. But all told, with the gore and the effects and the visual effects, After Effects had been present here, I can't help but give it a fairly average, somewhat decent score, surprisingly decent score of 12 out of 25, which gives us a total of 58 out of 100 points. I walked away from this movie very pleasantly surprised. It's not the highest rated film I'm ever going to do, certainly, but it showed a talent, and it had me feeling energized, and I really, really like that. So I would recommend this one. I absolutely would. You're not going to be in for the most scares and certainly not the most production value, but you're going to be in for what I perceived to be a fun time and interesting storylines. Not all of them, but some of them, and enough that makes this worth watching. So that should about do it for my review of All the Creatures Were Stirring. Really thank you for joining me here today. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow on Christmas Day. We'll see what we got then going on then. And remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.